Aloha, this is clarification number 12 from A Course in Miracles and the foundation for lessons 331 through 340. What is the ego? The ego is idolatry, the sign of limited and separated self, born in a body, doomed to suffer and to end its life in death. It is the, quote, will that sees the will of God as enemy and takes a form in which it is denied, in which God's will is denied. The ego is the, quote, proof that strength is weak and love is fearful. Life is really death, and what opposes God alone is true. The ego is insane. In fear, it stands beyond the everywhere, apart from all, in separation from the infinite. In its insanity, it thinks it has become a victor over God Himself. And in its terrible autonomy, it sees the will of God has been destroyed. It dreams of punishment and trembles at the figures in its dreams. Its enemies, who seek to murder it before it can ensure its safety by attacking them. The Son of God is egoless. What can he know of madness and the death of God when he abides in Him? What can he know of sorrow and of suffering when he lives in eternal joy? What can he know of fear and punishment, of sin and guilt, of hatred and attack, when all there is surrounding him is everlasting peace, forever conflict-free and undisturbed, in deepest silence and tranquility? To know reality is not to see the ego and its thoughts, its works, its acts, its laws, and its beliefs, its dreams, its hopes, its plans for its salvation, and the cost belief in it entails. In suffering, the price for faith in it is so immense that crucifixion of the Son of God is offered daily at its darkened shrine, and blood must flow before the altar where its sickly followers prepare to die. Yet will one lily of forgiveness change the darkness into light, the altar to illusions to the shrine of life itself. And peace will be restored forever to the holy minds which God created as His Son, His dwelling place, His joy, His love, completely His, completely one with Him. And that concludes the text. So again, this is, what is the ego? This is a foundation for the next 10 lessons. So one of the first things it talks about is the ego is idolatry, a false image. It's not even a thing. It's just a belief in separation. It's the attempt of a wayward mind to worship a self that's apart from God. Idolatry means mistaking image for reality. The ego is the image you made. This is make-believe image to replace your divine self. The make-believe image is small, separate, and vulnerable. It totally lives on the premise, I am not as God created me. This is its life. Its life is based on this. And its constant anxiety comes from trying to defend the lie. That's resistance. Resistance to the truth. The truth is, you are not an ego. You are still as God created you. The entire logic of the ego is inversion. It says that love is dangerous. It says that safety is an attack. It says that vulnerability is strength. The ego doesn't want you to know your invulnerability. It thinks God's will is a threat. It always interprets God's will as a threat, because that means loss of specialness. And the ego equates loss of specialness with its own annihilation. So the ego uses the body's frailty, the world's suffering, and the seeming finality of death to prove that life is the same as death. It's on the same level as death. Prove that over and over again. The ego is insane. It fears God. It pretends God is cruel when God is not cruel at all. It's just that the presence of God means the end of the ego. That's one thing the ego is sure of, and it's true. It thinks of that as punishment. But the ego isn't anything, so nothing's being punished. Just an idea of separation with which resolves. So the ego actually dissolves back into truth. You see that? Anything about fear, loss, rejection, sickness, death, that's just an echo. You're perceiving that is only an echo of the fear that you've successfully separated from God, your source. And the idea that you must now be punished. Fear of loss, rejection, sickness, death, that's what it is. So, again, no one is an ego. The Son of God is egoless. The truth of who you are can't even comprehend these nightmares. You see that? You're comprehending nightmares, sickness, aging, financial destitute, whatever. You're comprehending these nightmares, whether in yourself or in other people, people in the world, whatever. You're only comprehending these nightmares out of believing in things that aren't true about you. Your holy self knows only joy, peace, and union. So it's basically this recognition that what you're perceiving is not really there, not in the way it seems. It's only a symbol of you being afraid that you have actually separated from your source. That's the only thing that you can be afraid of. You don't really care what seems to go on here. You only care about extending love. You only care about getting back to sanity, back to the source, where you never really left. But it's a matter of getting back to creating that allows you to see. And to be back to creating is to be aware when the ego's talking to you. And don't be accepting that as truth. Be aware why you feel the way you feel. The ego demands constant sacrifice of you, sacrificing your peace, your innocence, your joy. It always delays those that are the gifts of God and puts you through pain and guilt and effort and suffering. But this quote, altar of suffering is totally self-imposed. Talks about a lily of forgiveness. The moment you bring that act of forgiveness, that lily, the altar just poof, disappears. That altar to the ego. Forgiveness reestablishes what's true. The one lily it talks about is your decision to stop believing in the ego's story. It's an instant decision. You can sense the body's boundaries soften when you do that. Everything relaxes in your body's energy field. You can sense the light of pure perception. So, this is where the ego's shrine can be God's sanctuary. Whenever there is this sense of guilt or shame or pain or a need for punishment or anything, that's the access point right there. It's showing you this is where your awareness intersects with illusion. So you can remain in the peace and joy and love of God. That's your choice. If you're willing to just meet whatever it is that's arising in peace. The ego just identifies with non-peace. And when you identify as the ego, that's what happens. You can be out of ego just as easily by your own choice. So you might want to use this as a practice. I recommend it. And if so, start out sitting still. Just like 3 to 5 minutes. Notice what concerning thoughts arise. And say to yourself, only truth is here. Only truth is here. And let your feeling of peace that follows that be proof that the ego is not real. And whenever you feel caught in any kind of conflict, struggle, worry, concern, remind yourself this is the ego defending what never existed. Smile about it and watch it go. It's just your belief in it that keeps it going. And in the evening, review your day gently. Where did you feel attacked? Where did you feel inadequate? Offer these instances now. If you offered it then, great. That's awesome too. Any instance now where you felt attacked or inadequate, basically, you don't need to crucify the Son of God. That's all it is. Attack thoughts. Hurting yourself. You don't need to do that. That's the forgiveness. God doesn't see any kind of attack. God only knows perfection. That's for you to know too. Don't think of the ego as your enemy. It's just a misunderstanding. You're not going to destroy it. It's not what trying to destroy it actually perpetuates it. You just stop believing it thought by thought. That's the practice of forgiveness. Dissolution of the misbelief. Very quiet. There's no fanfare about this. You just choose peace instead of judgment. Affirm to yourself love is real and love requires no defense. This is how every fear thought becomes a catalyst to undoing its cause. Leaving the Son of God revealed to you, recognized as itself. So hooray! Thank you for listening. Carry on to the next lesson, lesson 331 after this. I love you.